Hi, today we're going to talk about estimating sums and differences. Now, a sum is the answer that you get when you add numbers together. The difference is what you get when you subtract numbers. So when we talk about estimating sums and differences, we're talking about estimating or rounding before we add to find a sum or before we subtract to find the difference. In real life, estimating is actually something that you use. A lot of times in mathematics, the stuff that you actually do can seem like you'll never ever use it in real life. Well, estimating is something you actually use. I use estimating all the time when I go to the grocery store. What I do is I take the price of the product, and as I put things in the cart, I round things off to the nearest dollar. That would be estimating. And that way I have an idea of what my total is when I check out. Sometimes the clerk will give me a price that's much larger than what I estimated, and it's at that time that I know I should probably take a close look at the receipt and see if there was an error somewhere. Okay, so estimating really is a useful tool. We're going to use estimating, like I said, to find sums and differences. Okay, to look for the estimation of a sum or a difference before we add or subtract. Now, in estimating, what we're really doing is we're rounding. Okay, we've talked about rounding before, but let's review that and we'll talk about how we're going to use it in this application. If we have a number like 376, it makes the most sense for us to round that number to the nearest hundred. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to identify what's in the hundreds place. What do you see? It's the 3, of course. So we're going to take a look at that 3. Now, what we're doing when we're rounding is we're really looking at which numbers is this between and which is it closest to. So if we're talking about the nearest hundred, the two hundreds that this is between is this number, 300, and the next 100. So after 300 comes, right, 400. So this number is between 300 and 400. Now, to decide which one it's closer to, we want to look at the next place to the hundreds, which in this case would be the tens place. We want to look here at that 7. Right in the middle of 300 and 400 is 350. When we did our rounding video, we talked about the hill, and at the top of the hill was the 5. Anything 5 or greater is going to go up to the higher number. Anything 4 or less is going to stay at the number we already have. So we're going to look at this number. We're going to identify what are the two hundreds that's in between, 300 and 400. And then we're going to look at this. Where would that be on the hill? Well, it's past the 5. It's going to be closer to the 400. So this would round then to 400. Okay, let's take a look at a couple numbers that are in the hundreds and round them very quickly. All right, we have the number 926. Now that's going to be between 900 and 1000 or 1000. Okay, it's either going to be a 9 or it's going to be a 10. And we're going to look at the 2. Which would it be? Is it closer to the 9 or is it closer to the 10? 900 or 1000. The 2 is going to make it closer to 900. So this would round to 900. 747 is either going to be 700 or 800. With a 4, it's going to be closer to the 700 side. 672 will be either 600 or 700. And with a 7, it's going to be closer to 700. That's rounding to the nearest hundred. Now let's take a look at the nearest 1000. With the nearest 1000, nothing changes except the place you're rounding to. We have now a 4-digit number. We want to identify what's in the thousands place. In this case, it's the 8. So this is either going to be an 8 or it's going to be a 9. And in looking at this number, it's going to be closer to the 9 side. So we're going to make this a 9, and the rest of the numbers change to zeros, and it's going to be 9,000. That would be 9,000. All right, so what if you get a bigger number like this? 42,763. And we want to round that to the nearest thousand. Okay, again, what's in the thousands place? It's the 2. But now we have not just 2,000, we have 42,000. So we have 42. After 42 would come 43. So it's either going to be 42,000 or 43,000. We look at the 7, and it's going to be closer to the 43. So this would round to 43,000. Okay, so it really doesn't matter what place you want to round to. You do the same thing every time. It's either going to be the number you see, or it's going to be one more than the number you see, 42,000 or 43,000. Now let's put it into application with estimating the sums and the differences. If I have these two numbers, 2,961 plus 1,446, and I want to estimate what that sum is going to be. I don't want to actually add those numbers. I want to get an idea of what it's going to be. I want to get as close to it as I can through estimation. So I'm going to round both of these numbers, since they're 4-digit, I'm going to round to the nearest thousand. This will either be a 2 or a 3, and with a 9, what's it going to be? Right, it's going to be a 3, so it's going to be 3,000. This will either be a 1 or a 2, and with a 4, it's going to be closer to the 1, so it's going to be 1,000. So I've rounded here, and I've rounded here, so now these are my two estimates as far as the rounding is concerned. I want to go back and I want to make sure I add. That's what my symbol says. So I know I'm going to have 3 zeros there. 3 plus 1 is 4. And my estimate for this would be about 4,000. We use that word about when we estimate because it's not exact. It's about that much. So this would be 4,000. Let's take a look at another one. Let's make the numbers a little larger. Let's do 173,629 and 124,500. Nope. Well, yeah, we'll leave it at 518. And this time we'll subtract them. We're still going to round these. I want to round these to the nearest thousand. We could round them to any place we would like to round them to, but I want to estimate it to the nearest thousand. Okay, so again, the thousands place is here. This is either going to be 173 or one more than that, 174. In this case, it's going to be, with a 6, 174. And we change these numbers to zeros. So it's 174,000. This is either going to be 124 or 125. And with a 5 here, it's going to be 125,000. Now that we've rounded, we would go ahead and do our subtraction. We would have 3 zeros here. We have 4 minus 5, which we can't do, and now your regular subtraction rules come into play. Borrow here, that's a 6. Regroup here, that's 14. 14 minus 5 is 9. 6 minus 2 is 4. And your answer, and 1 minus 1 is 0. Your answer would be about 49,000. Now what I'd like you to do is pause the video and try these two. Go ahead, I'll wait. Did you give it a shot? How'd you do? Let's see. Let's check and find out and see how well you did. In this one, 5,631 rounded to, it was either 5 or a 6, and it was going to be, right, it was going to be 6,000. This one was going to be 1,000 or 2,000. It was going to be a 1 or a 2, and with a 4, it was going to be a 1. So it was 1,000. Did you pay attention to your symbol? Did you know what to do? Right, we want to add here. So we're going to get 6 plus 1, 7,000. That would be our estimate for that. Last one here. Again, we're going to the nearest thousand. Here I've got 37,000. It's either going to be 37 or it's going to be one bigger, which would be 38. With a 5, it's going to go up, so it's going to be 38,000. Down here I've got 13. It's either going to be 13 or 14. With a 3, it's going to stay 13. And now I subtract it. This is going to give me 3 zeros. 8 minus 3 was 5, 3 minus 1 was 2, and you should have come up with an estimate of about 25,000. When you're estimating, you want to find which number, the number you see is closest to. You want to get your two choices. Is it this number or is it this number? And then look and see which one it's closest to. You want to look at that next place over and decide where is it compared to the middle, that 5 in the middle. Is it closer to the low number, closer to the high number? Okay? Pay attention in class. Always do your best. I'll see you next time.